Hello and welcome to another little bit of Satoshi's news. Today I have a live chat with the Blue Boar of England and Victoria Rixon, the whistleblowing midwife. So this is going to be an extremely exciting chat. I'm sure we're going to learn loads. But before we start, branch your threads, expand your mind with treechat.ai. All your posts put on chain. Right, let's cue the music.
Satoshi, like a cowboy in the West, riding on the blockchain that they call the very best. 1 million strong, them transactions flying free. Just wait for the terror node, you'll surely see.
Right then, Blue Boar and Vic, are you there?
We are.
Excellent, excellent. Great to have you both on the show. This is exceptional. Two big hitters in the Truther movement. This is ace. So, a Blue Boar, do you want to start off?
Yeah, well, yeah, to be fair, I'll leave Victoria in very nicely on this. This is how the trick is done. There is no court of law in England anymore. You are now in an admiralty court, full stop. Doesn't matter what level of court you're going into, which court you're going into, it's an admiralty court. It's done through certain acts of the corporate parliament. Parliament has no sovereignty. If it claims, it must show how it's done. In actual fact, Parliament gave itself and legislated itself sovereignty in 1707 through the Act of Union because it lost all its power. So did the Crown by the Glorious Revolution of 1688. What it was supposed to do was make all of those public offices to the people. And they didn't want that and they didn't like it. So they now have to claim all of their power back. And this is where the illegal conversion comes in. The illegal conversion comes through the Act of Union. The Act of Union of 1707 is void. It was never given royal assent. It was never given the people's authority, neither in Scotland or in England. They were rioting like you would not believe in Scotland. Now, what we've got to understand in all of this is that 96% of the nations couldn't read or write. They were illiterate. So it was only the educated, the elites, as we call them, or they like to call themselves in their day, when they wanted everybody tugging their forelocks and saying, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. And we all worked for the barons and lords and everything else. So they had to get back their authority to hold over us. And this is what this journey is. Now, this is where I want, rather than give you a full history lesson, this is where I've asked Victoria to join us today. Now, me and Victoria have had many enlightened conversations. When we are born, we, the flesh and blood vessel, the temple, are given a live birth notification form 01 to 03. That is then whisked away by somebody else. And Victoria, I think, would be sort of better explaining how this thing goes, but this is my take on it. And then Victoria can come in and educate us all, to be fair. But then it's registered on the hospital's computer that you're here, your weight, your everything else. But it will not allow you to move any further until the placenta is born. And the placenta then is born. That's weighed, measured, registered, and then the system allows you to go forward. So they've now split you, the temple, and the vessel. As to the 1666, 1707 Cestui Trust Act. So, Victoria, if you'd like to come in and just explain that, please, in proper terms, rather than my common dulcet tones, I think that would help the audience to understand what I'm talking about.
Excellent.
Well,
Yeah, let's hear it from Vic.
Yeah, thank you. You and I both know, Terry, you are an absolute genius. So anyway, I'm in the park because this was very impromptu meeting. So if you hear children, it's because they're all loving life in the park, not aware of what the hell is going on in this world. Bless their hearts. So as you all know, I was a midwife, 6.5 years in the NHS. Things never felt right. Now, only when I came out of the NHS did I become aware of the bill fraud, the tax fraud, all of that sort of stuff. And it's put me on this huge journey. And I didn't realise until I did the Richard Vobes interview what I actually unearthed, because I got people from all over the world wanting to speak to me about what I knew about the birth certificate and the notifications. So what happened was, when a woman's in labour, you open a new file on our system, which we used was Protos. Now, some systems use CERN or different ones, and it's now becoming Epic. It's now becoming Epic. So what we're sorry, my son's just talking to me. I knew he would do that. Bear with me.
Yeah, so in the future, all these records will need to be put on the Bitcoin network.
Sorry, bear with me.
I'll while you're dealing with that, Vic, you should give me a shout if you want me to jump in and fill the void.
No, yeah. So basically, when someone's in labour, you then open their labour, their next part of their pregnancy. It works out, you're in this stage of pregnancy, you're in this stage of pregnancy, and third stage of pregnancy, and then you're in all these different stages of labour. So basically, when you give birth, you put in the time of birth and the date, which generates the hospital number of your hospital number for that hospital. Because every time you go to a new hospital, you get their hospital number. So it doesn't follow you. That number doesn't follow you all your life if you move around. It only follows you to that hospital, which will remain if you stay at that hospital. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
So what then happens is you cannot move on in that system until you have then generated the next part, which is the NHS number, through the birth of the placenta. And you have to put in the time and birth of placenta, the condition, was it intact? Has it got 3 vessels, 2 vessels, 1 vein? So you have to write all these things in, enter it into the system. Once you've done that, you press enter and it generates your NHS number, which goes to the child records. The red book that you get given, that then links to that. Now, if you've made an error sometimes in the birth, it might not give you a hospital number, but it always gives you an NHS number. So that child always is generated from the placenta. But if you cannot move on, if you haven't inputted the birth, and you haven't inputted the weight of the baby, and you haven't inputted things like the placenta time and date, and if it's intact. So that then generates off to that. Now, many years ago, before they brought in sort of the digital wave, as you well know, we used to use the system called Protos. Now, Protos, when you actually look at the meaning, is the beginning of human life. The words are all in the clues are in the words, it's all linked in. Now, when you used to print these documents off, you would go in and print the delivery summary of that birth. So, for instance, if this was her 4th birth, you'd go into the 4th pregnancy and print it off. And what it would print off is a birth register. It would then print off a birth notification, a live birth notification, a birth register, a delivery summary, and a baby record. The baby record would go in the baby's notes. The birth register would go in the mother's notes, and a copy would go to her, to the community midwife, and to the health visitor. And the live birth notification is the only document that just went in one place, which was in a tray for hospital use only. And I never knew where that went. And you can't get a copy of that now because Protos has been shut down, and I've tried to go and get a copy, and it's proving quite difficult. That live birth notification, the only way I can describe it is when you register your child's birth at the registry office, you get given a long birth certificate, correct? And you can buy a smaller version. Yeah? The birth register in the hospital is that longer version, and the live birth notification is the smaller version. And that's how it works. So the live birth notification goes somewhere else in the hospital, and a lady would come down every morning and pick them up and take them off. Now, Terry's linked that potentially this goes to the council, which is how the council then know that you haven't registered your baby's birth. Because how would anybody know if you chose not to? There had to be a link somewhere from the hospital to the council into the registry department. And that's where it is. And that's what we worked out. And that's what I went on Richard Robes and said. And that's when everybody started linking this administration to the biblical sense of what was actually happening in our lives.
That is the implications of that are just absolutely huge. As we're all uncovering.
Well, thanks to Victoria there.
Sorry, Tez, that the parents don't know. I didn't know. I've had 4 babies. I didn't know. I didn't get consented where this was going and where my data was going and my information. So yeah, you are right. It's absolutely huge. I'm gonna stop there and I'll keep listening. But Tez, you crack in now.
Thanks for that, Vic. Yeah, no. Look, this is huge because this now shows the cut of the placenta from the temple body, as to God's word, to the Vatican and to the Crown. So what happens is you get a live birth notification form of the body, the man, the child, the baby, the daughter. You then get another corporate, which the government tell you they have a administrative record of the birth certificate. Now, on all birth certificates, what does it say? Copyrighted to the Crown Office for Commerce. What does it also say? This cannot be used for identification. What do the state demand if you have no photographic ID? Your birth certificate. Well, if it can't be used for identification purposes, why is the state demanding it? Why, when you turn 16, do you get a national insurance number without applying for it? Because you are tracked, monitored like cattle, like sheep. We have been registered to the state corporation under the Crown Corporation via the birth certificate, not the live birth notification. So we now have been separated as to the 1666 Trust and 1707 Trust from the temple, the body, the vessel, the soul, by the way of the cut. This is why we are deemed to be lost at sea or a vessel upon the sea. That's how sick these people are. Sick. And then by all the acts and statutes that they brought in, it is now the evidence of fraud, treason, as to the 1351 Treason Act. Still in force, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be letting them con you that it's not in force, because yes, it is. And this is what they're trying to do. The Bill of Rights, still in force. The Magna Charta, still in force. Since 1707, Parliament has been a franchise corporation of the United Kingdom Corporation or Great Britain Corporation. You have never voted, ever voted. Parliament does not hold sovereignty, can't hold sovereignty, it's a public office. Lord Kilmore stated it in the letter of 1960. Parliament are mere servants. They had to get rid of this. So what they've done is, over the years, is repealed acts that protect us by illegal conversion. A corporate parliament does not have the authority to repeal anything. It certainly doesn't have the authority to repeal inalienable rights. They're yours and mine. So what they've done is they very cleverly swapped us. So the live birth notification, me and you, is now the corporate vessel. So when you go to court, and this is the joke, this is why I find it so funny, As to the new Companies Act 2006, and it's section 790LQ, LN, LP, LM, LR, LS, LT, all with 790 in it. Click on the little blue box that says section 661.1 on it. Because all persons are now companies. That's how they've done it. Inland Waterways Act. You now are a vessel upon the water. Road Traffic Act. You are permanently in commerce because you use their system. You are registered to vote. The vote is no longer free. You now sign up to vote to take responsibility for the state's debts as a corporate fiction. So when you go to court, and once you trap the judge, as a couple of people have done now, the judge will tell you he doesn't believe in God and he's not under oath, he's under an affirmation. Well, he's now in treason. As to the Securities and Successions Act 1701, all officers of the people must be under an oath. They've removed the imperial crown, which is yours and mine authority. They're now delegating corporate authority from Parliament.
So is that malfeasance in public office?
Oh, it's more than that, mate. It's treason. Every officer, by not being in public office, is now in breach of the Successions Act, treason, the Bill of Rights, by altering or subverting, treason, and high treason by the Treason Act 1351, still in force, by stating as very clearly waging war against the king or its people is an act of high treason. There's also a clause in there that any Englishman who offers aid to a foreign state or domestic state power is in the act of treason. So by these judges now all being in foreign state control under an affirmation and removing the authority of the imperial crown, the people, are now in treason. End of.
So what can we do about it?
Well, what we do now is we write to the House of Commons. This is why they're trying to get rid of the House of Commons. Because the Commons belongs to the people. That's why it's called the House of Commons. So we now remove our consent from Parliament. Simple as that. And we demand that Parliament, within a certain limited time period, must now declare where it's got sovereignty from. It can't. It's legislated itself it.
Can you explain to people who are listening the difference between the government and Parliament?
The government works for the people. Parliament is corporate. And there is no difference now, because that's what the Separation of Powers Act did. The Separation of Powers Act was a three-pronged safety. So you had to have your checks and balances. So one was the check, two was the signature, and three was the authorization.
So what actually is the definition of Parliament? If the government works for the people, what's Parliament?
They don't. This is what they've done. Parliament no longer is Parliament. Parliament is a building. Parliament is an office of the people, nothing more. Government is what we allow them to do, which is govern over us as to the contract of 1688 and all of our inalienable rights.
So who
we fought, lived and died for.
Who are or what is Parliament then? If because we only need
it's
government.
a franchise. It's a franchise. If you go on to ChatGPT and or any of the AIs and just look into the franchise parliament, which is held in the Library of Parliament, and it'll tell you, since 1707, we have been franchised as a company or corporation.
What's the definition of parliament? What's the substance of it? What was its purpose, and what is it?
The definition of parliament is basically to uphold the will of the people, to do the betterment of the people. Now,
is that not the government?
I don't think. No, it's parliament. Parliament is a body. It's a house, right? It's the House of Parliament,
consisting of.
It is parliamentarians
elected
the people
by.
we voted for. We voted for these people, but the fact is nobody's voted, pal. Nobody. Keep mentioning this. The Quasim votes. And you have to understand that by the illegal conversion of the man, the flesh and blood temple, and the cut, you have now been dissected into 2 different entities, or 3 different entities, or 4 different entities. Because what you've got now is Parliament stating it's sovereign. Well, how does a building sovereign? And in fact, Parliament can only exist 3 years. Can't exist 4, and it can't exist 5. They've repealed certain acts to give them more legitimacy, to give them time to make things change. And don't forget, I mean, this is what people forget. We're living in the 21st century. Brilliant for us. Fabulous. We've got all this technology at our hands, push of a button, and it just makes us more lazy. Where our forefathers were toiling the land, cleaning out the sheep, fighting for the land, fighting the wilderness, living in a mud hut with a straw roof, and living with cows and pigs and sheep and stuff, trying to survive day to day. Now, we still got that, but just in different ways. And they could not read or write. This is why it states in the Bill of Rights that they must act for the betterment of the people, not themselves. That's treason. To alter or subvert or usurp the Bill of Rights, Declaration of Rights, Magna Charters, any of it, high treason. Because you were given a position of fiduciary trust, the trust of God. They're not under that anymore. They are nothing more than admiralty law. Well, it's a special admiralty doctrine to look at, and this is where they've been very clever, corporations upon the sea. This is why they can smash your doors in. They don't need a warrant. Because you're not a living person. You're a PCS, person of significant control of the trust or corporation.
But that's a legal conversion by them assuming that.
Correct. But because you use and you're the one that brought this out years and years ago, and I tip my hat to you, by using their fiat currency, by confirming that you have used the birth certificate as identification, you are now under their roles. You have confirmed that you're a vessel. You're a corporation. By their illegal conversion of acts and statutes.
Right, got you. Okay, so again, it goes back to the question.
Double meaning. Yeah, it's illegal. It literally is the illegal part of everything, mate. Everything is built on fraud, deception, and treason. And they can say what they want. The one thing that they can't prove is that they hold sovereignty. 1973, they told us that going into the EEC was just a commerce transaction. What they didn't tell us was we were the commerce. And they would make it easier for everybody to deal to everybody's standard. That we would have a natural standard. That there would be no cheap meat, cheap labour, cheap this, cheap that, cheap other. Yeah, of course it did. That's why you see all over Europe, they're all swinging off cranes, going up on cranes up to floors and levels. If we did that here, we'd be shut down, shot. You name it. Always a double standard with this corporation government. Always.
And also, can I add, with the point of birth, we know that the vagina is the portal to our world, is the portal to this life. These systems on the computer are called portals. So if you're going to go in and go into the live birth notification in the birth register, it's called a portal. So they've like, as you talk about inverted, subverted, perverted, which you taught me, both of you have taught me that. It's all a way of trickery from birth, from the moment of birth. And when you actually look at the demise of birth now, in terms of not only healthcare, but removing the power of the divine feminine, women have lost complete confidence in birth. It's all been through trickery.
Yep. And it's all about the deception of keeping you in servitude and slavery, which is a breach of the Slavery Act 2010, Article 4, Article 6, Article 8, Article 10 of the Human Rights Convention. It's also an act of terrorism. 2015, Article 1, political agenda. Because the political parliament, the corporate parliament, are now ruling roughshod over all our internal rights. All of them. You are now classed as a dead, soulless vessel, trust, corporation, piece of paper. You are now a person of significant control.
You have to say that again, Terry. Person of significant control.
Over a trust. What trust? Have you been disclosed that you've got a trust? Because I haven't. Have you been told that your all-caps name is a corporation backed by a bond of insurance? I haven't. Are you being informed that you, as Mr. Satoshi, is a private corporation? Because I haven't. But because you answer to that, it's all a con into administrative fiction.
So would you say the best thing is to just basically try and avoid their systems as much as you can?
Absolutely. But if you get into their systems, make sure you take in, as soon as the judge walks in, do not fuck about. Right, Judge, you're here under an administrative commerce capacity by illegal conversion, breach of the Treason Act. You're not here under the Imperial Crown Authority. You have no Admiralty authority unless you can produce it now. You don't have an oath. You don't have a bond. Therefore, you have no jurisdiction. I'm the man. This is the birth certificate, bond, vessel, whatever crap you want to call it, that is a fraud. Here is a document, which I'm just doing at the minute, which is now removing me, the all caps fiction thing that you think is me, from the registry of Companies House. Here is a copy of the letter now to the Crown Office stating that I want all my taxes back. I want all my money back, and I want my dividends off the corporation, because you took all of my gold, all of my wealth of England when you changed us to fiat currency for the betterment of you, not me. Therefore, I am no longer dealing in your currency. Here is your driving license. I want my English license back. I want my English passport back. What's passport? Passport. You are now allowed to pass from port to port. It's all there in absolute deceit by words and trickery. So you now want the diplomatic passport of the Englishman. Because you are the creditor. The magistrates court, and we've had this as fact, and the county courts have been told to come down on you twice as hard if you claim sovereignty, and to rubbish you as a man of the land. All you remind the judges, article, it's either 29 or 39, no free man. Magna Charta, still in force, can be seized, excised, imprisoned without the jury of his peers.
And
Bill of Rights.
Has someone challenged that?
Because that's what we're all doing now, mate. It is literally now we've had enough of it. These courts are in treason. Simple as that. Every judge is in treason in this land. Every politician, councillor, council employee, police officer is in treason by illegal conversion, removing the man into a vessel or corporate commerce body. We've no idea of how on earth you can class the flesh and blood and class my assets as a corporate asset. It's not a corporate asset, it's a private asset. And this is why they can smash your doors in, seize your cars, because they're boats on a thing. You're registered. And who holds the registership? Who holds the white paper ship of ownership?
Oh,
When you buy a new motor car.
DVLA.
And who is that? It's the Crown Office. So the Crown now claim that they own your vehicle. Because you've given it to them. You've registered it to them. But we haven't done anything. They've got their corporation that's registered to where? If you own a company, where do you register it to?
Company's house.
Company who's owned by the Crown.
Which is now corporate.
Corporate. Always was corporate.
Is the DVLA a trust?
Mate, who knows what the DVLA is running? As far as I'm aware, it's a corporation, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing more than a corporation. It's under the Imperial Crown. It's under the Crown franchise of the United Kingdom or Great Britain Corporation. Every office within government, every office, the Prime Minister's office, franchise.
Well, I'm going to jump in there. So, to let the viewers know that when I qualified as a midwife, I qualified at the University of Plymouth with a degree in Bachelor of Midwifery and Science. And under that were modules of safety. So, emergency, biology, mentorship, all of these things. I earned my grades and I earned my degree. When I left, I removed myself from the register. And that was after I obviously got called this baby killer online. Now, this year, the NMC, who are the nursing and midwifery body for midwifery and midwives and nurses for safety, which also covers patient safety, sent me and put me on notice in July. And they put me on notice for using the word midwife, that I had misled the public into believing that I was a midwife, and could I remove anything of the sort, that I was promoting myself as a midwife, and I needed to now call myself a retired midwife because they own the word midwife and it's a criminal offence. So, and I beautifully put together, some beautiful documents together, put together some letters, and we went back to them in explaining in 3 documents that the Nursing and Midwifery Council was removed under a statutory instrument as a public authority in 2001, and that they were no longer a public authority and they were a corporation. And under a corporation, they cannot be a judiciary and be a corporation. which then led me down a path of understanding, well, if they're a corporation, they need to make money. How do they make money? Because a corporate entity has to make money. And it's through the fitness to practice referrals, which is absolutely through the roof, which is, and it's been condemned as a toxic culture. Now, this links in because they didn't respond. So it was a tacit agreement of them agreeing that they were no longer a public authority and they actually were a corporation, and that I hadn't contracted with them, and it was fraud from the beginning because I didn't know who they were. So I've no longer contracted with you, which means I own my rights to my certificate and my grading and my degree, and you no longer have control over me. And they ignored me. And we used exactly what we are talking about in this call. It doesn't matter who it is. It's about understanding. If you meet them on an administrative level where people say don't reply, it's the worst thing you could do. You have to engage and have a conversation to unravel the fraud. So I've now sent a 7-day, the time is ticking, and you now need to respond. Otherwise, we'll take this as an agreement. And another midwife has also done the same, and she's in the same boat. So this work the Realm of England are doing is spot on, absolutely spot on. It's unraveling the whole system. Now, obviously, moving on from that sort of side of it, the remedy we need here is for the pregnant women and families need to be aware if they register the birth of their child is locked in the system. However, if they aren't in the system and don't have any information, then they don't get the financial support. So they're stuck. This is the problem. So there needs to be an avenue to allow parents to apply for the funding in another way or gain their money in another way to support their families, which is what everyone is entitled to. So what I've had is 2 parents who've contacted me. One of them is a family member who has not registered their birth of their baby at the registry office, but has a passport. But they did, however, go through the hospital registering the birth. So it is in the system. But I also know someone who didn't register the birth whatsoever at the hospital in any way, shape or form, had a home birth and has a passport. So it is working. And this is the education. The education, the work we are doing will ripple for generations. Okay. It will ripple. We are not the change. We are the blockchain in the change. We are the pebble in the wave. And if we can educate enough people to educate their grandchildren, it obliterates their system. But the quickest way to pull this down very rapidly is 1, start self-soothing smaller remedies at home. You know, you broke your finger, as crap as it is, have a bottle of whiskey and bend it back and tape it together. That's my view right now. That's the truth. Because every time you go in there and they give you a pain relief and they do an observation, they're drawing money. Every time they touch you, it's a business. You are a business. You are a profit. There is a pound sign above your head. So what we need to be doing is we need to be withdrawing and retreating back to our caves away from these people and stop paying your bloody council tax. Everybody, stop doing it. It will crumble the system a hell of a lot quicker because that's one of the biggest revenues. And then the other one is obviously the money being taken off your wages through tax. That's the hardest part, but that's their biggest revenue because we're all employed. So it's a big circle, but we're challenging it and it is working. It is working.
Well, the thing you can get now is, and that we've just uncovered, is instead of claiming benefit, you claim your dividends. Big difference. Massive difference.
Good
because
point.
now you've stepped back into your own realm. You are no longer the corporate realm. Because the benefit, who do you think they borrow the money off? Who do you think gives them the value of the pound? The fiat currency? Us. All right? So if we say no more, we're not having it because you're not employed by a corporation. You are literally, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, but you are a corporate franchise employed, not employed, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
You're like seconded out. You're like on loan.
no, yeah, but you are literally a franchise company under authority of that company. You're no longer an employee. You're not an employee. You are a corporate entity working for another corporate entity under the same corporate entity of the United Kingdom Corporation, the Crown Corporation. It's as simple as that. You're not employed anymore. That's why if you get your gas and electric bill and you've stopped paying it, great on you. But what I strongly suggest you do now, and I think this is where we're going to do now, is what I'm recommending is that you remove 82% from your monthly bill. You send them a nice letter saying, I have now just become aware of the illegal conversion, and you believe that you are dealing with a company without a contract. Well, I'm now going to tell you that I'm not a company. I'm not registered to anybody. The birth certificate is not me. And therefore, you now issuing invoices to a dead entity corporation on a presumption by license from the Crown Office, Parliament. Because they're only under a license to deceive and betray you and con you. Ed Miliband's just come out and said, yeah, you're paying 78% tax on your electric and gas bill. What else are you paying, Toshi? Hello?
Yeah. What else are we paying?
Yeah. 5% VAT.
Oh,
Now, who only pays VAT? Corporations. So that's proof you're a corporation. You're paying VAT. You can't claim it back. Every corporation is allowed to claim the VAT back. But you're not. Illegal conversion.
Yeah. Also, I mean, again, the government in quotes there are thinking about taxing unrealized profits. So profits before you've actually even made them. So if they're saying, oh, right, we're going to, maybe tax capital gains before you've even realized it, well, then surely you should also be able to claim inflationary losses. Because that's
this is the whole point. No, because no. Because we have to correct the administrative error. This is what makes me laugh with all these other solutions and
they show
nonsense.
you, if they show you their hand and you don't question it, you are not picked up on the clue. So when I went to court with Jacobs and Plymouth City Council and they slapped me with a cost order, there was a clue in the paperwork. And the clue was, not only was the information inside the boxes, so I can pick up on that part, but they put amount due 4,870, amount due 0. So people only home in on the number and panic. But I homed in on the smaller box that said a balance due 0. There's always clues, I'm learning, clues in everything. And you have to, this is why the people that make groups, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but they say, don't respond, don't engage. They give you their hand, they tip their hand to show you. And if you don't find the clue on the gap in the administration to argue it, they then come back with another clue. And before you know it, it becomes silent and you don't hear from them anymore. That is the truth.
Because they have to lose. They lose. They can't back up their claim. They can't back up the claim.
Exactly. And they're talking to you in an administrative way. And when you use the in rem, which I've started to use on everything, Southwest Water have now changed my name to Victoria in rem and lower caps. They've agreed. So it's something is shifting, but we got to remember every time they do this, they will have thought of something ahead of that. So until we can stop funding them, that's where it starts, and it's a standoff. But a lot of people I know have also been, so for instance, I negotiated with my water company. All right, I'll pay because you supply it to my door. That is a service. So I made an offer. I pay £5 a month. They never argued. I pay £5 a month. They left me alone. It's about box smart. I didn't do that with the council and learning. And because I'm a very, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't like injustice. It really grips me. So I've tried every different rule and a different way, and I've enjoyed it. It's been a bit like a chessboard. But I'm telling you, there's something in everything that you're saying Tez, that is absolutely spot on. And everything I've now learned from you, Tosh, is it's all funneling together with this information. It's just how we disseminate that out to the general public for them to release that fear and realise they're not this person, but they can't get their head around it.
And that's the truth. That's the trickery bit. That's the simple. Everybody's been looking for this big bad monster that's and it's as simple as that. You have been illegally converted. They haven't removed you from the land. They've now removed you. Again, what is a you? You know, when it says I on the money, I pay the bearer. Who is I? It's all done in faith. This now has been done and conducted in bad faith. Therefore, if we box smart on this, Parliament won't last another week. It's as simple as that. Will not last another week. Because if we write to the House of Commons and say, no, Parliament's dissolved, we now remove, first part, we, the people, the imperial crown, the living crown of England, now state that we all acts of Parliament since 1707 are void. That's section 1. Section 2, we, the people, the living crown, the imperial crown under William and Mary, still in force, the highest crown in England, now demand that Parliament disclose how it got sovereignty. Number 3, we, the people, remove all sovereignty and have removed our right to vote as a quasim, because a quasim cannot vote. That's how they've done it. They've put you into a personam. And it's a photograph of you, nothing more. You are a piece of paper on the chessboard for them to print money against. That's it. It's to keep them in the luxury that they've become accustomed to. Now, if you've had your house stolen, if you've had your car stolen, if you've been fined by the court, I now want a public declaration on Facebook if you've got the nuts. Name the police force, name the officers, name the judge for the illegal conversion. And let's not fuck about anymore. Excuse my French, but let's not. Let's get it on the public record. And let's not only record it, but record. And that's spelled CRE-CHORD. Because now we've recorded the joint back together. We are both the placenta and the temple.
And the definition of that is that maternal and fetal placenta and membranes are born together. And that goes back to biblical times. We are 46 monozygotic monarchy sovereignty. That is the definition of us.
And that is what they don't like. They don't like the fact that all this is now coming out. That a thicker like myself, excuse me, has worked it all out. We've gone back to 1700 and 1688 and come forward. We've looked at most of that, and you want to see some of their dirty tricks. I mean, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Railways and Canals Act, so that they could bring water upon the land. The Traffic Act, because traffic flows, to keep the flow of the traffic. What else flows? The river, the stream, the canal. This is all it is. It's absolutely fraud on top of fraud on top of fraud. They now bring you into an admiralty court knowing full well that they're in treason. They're not under oath. They're not under the will of the people. They're not under the authority of the imperial crown. Therefore, they have usurped, altered, and subverted the Bill of Rights. All the constitutional documents. All of them. And what you've got to understand is when we had, no disrespect, Toshi, I'm going to use you. So I make a claim that Sir Toshi has nicked 10 of my chickens. what happens in the old days. We used to go to the common land, all the village, and we were then literally told, here we go, I now accuse him of pinching my chickens. The village would be the jury because they knew you well and whether you were capable of that crime. So you would put your evidence together. So Toshi would put his defence together and the village would decide. And law was spelt Lore.
What does that stand for? Anything? Lore.
Law. Law.
So that
The
was
unwritten law.
the original spelling of it.
That was the original spelling of it.
Huh.
Lore. Law. Now, what does their how did you get to their law? Well, let me tell you. Because theirs is the written law by the trust, land, air, and water. What does that spell?
Yeah, law, land, air, water.
Law. Law. It's their law. Trust, law. For a trust that we don't have, trust that we can't benefit from, a trust that we have never set up, a trust that's been withheld from us, even though we have our live birth notifications. Because what happens if you get hold of your live birth notification? You can now prove life.
You are living. You are there. You are real.
You are there.
Blood.
You are not lost at sea. You are not a vessel. You are not an incorporated fiction. And what must be surrendered? The trust. Because once you can prove life, the trust must be surrendered. That's why it's so important to stamp your documents, not with your thumb, but with your life finger. Blood from your life finger.
Which
That's why
finger
all
is
your
that?
fingers have got your index finger.
Ah.
Your first finger on your hand. The life finger. And stamp it. This is my 46 monogothic gene of God, sealed by the word of God.
And why not the thumbprint?
Why? What's the thumb mean? I have no idea what the thumb means. But it's not the life. Life must be proven. So what's the best finger to use? The life finger. And what people have forgotten is who we actually are. Now, if Jesus Christ was the Son of God, who are we?
Children of God?
Well, if you're a child of God, you never grow up, do you? And this is what they've done. Because they've changed calendars, right? From the Julian calendar to this fiction calendar. Because what did God create? 13 lunar cycles, the universe creation. Who created the universe? God. They changed it to 12 months so they could change everything. And I'm sorry to say, people, you are not your age. If you are 40, you now have to add 40 months to your age. Because we're under lunar cycles.
That's their Gregorian calendar they've made of you. So your Gregorian is what they've changed, so you don't work out exactly who you are. And if we go back the 1700s, when a lot of this came to a head in the mid 1600s, 1666, 1668, 69, if you think what happened just 150 years before, the obliteration of women, which was through the witch trials. There were no witches, they called them witches. They called the people who were the wise women who had the fundamental knowledge of thousands of years on how to care and look after people with plants and medicine and healing. So they created this massive campaign that if they obliterate women and they make their own standard of life through economic, financial, whatever you want to call it, the women would never rise. And the women were gone because the women were so that they were obliterated. Now I
The
go on about
knowledge was
this a lot.
left.
I go
The
on about
knowledge
this a
was
lot.
lost.
The reason why maternity services is so prevalent in the news every single day today is because they have run out of time. They cannot hide it anymore. When you look at what's happening today, it's no coincidence I've whistleblown when I have, and I know what I know at this time. It's not a coincidence, we know that. But if you rewind right back to King James's demonology book, this was planned back then with the demise of women and their birth. And they became the ownership of the church. That's where all of this shifted in the line of birth. Now it's not difficult to realize it's run out because women very rarely christen their children, and they very rarely use God, and no Bibles in birth, none of that. It's all changing. So together, merging every element of your life and awakening every area of your life is quite overwhelming. It's been very overwhelming for me. 17, 19 months ago, I knew none of this. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. And it's unraveled, and it's now I'm aware of the trickery, and I've cottoned onto it so quick because in my heart, I always knew I just needed to understand it. It doesn't matter what area it is. Every area of your life, you need to lift up the stone and have a look because it's there. It's not as it seems. It doesn't matter what it is.
No, not a thing. And it's all done to deceivers because they don't want you to know that you are the brother and sister of Jesus Christ. If you are to believe the Holy Gospel, you cannot go against the word or the Lord of God. But they are. Because by saying that they don't believe in God and they're not under the oath, well, what the hell are they doing? They're no longer under fiduciary duty, so they can do what they want. This is how lawless it has now become.
So it's all about getting knowledge out to everybody, really. I mean, yeah, what Vic was saying there was actually really quite stark. It's like, yeah, so they basically killed and got rid of every single intelligent, free-thinking woman that had the knowledge. It's outrageous.
Exactly. And do you know how many they killed?
How many?
50,000 men, women, and children in Europe. It was worse in Massachusetts, but they brought in people from Germany. Heinrich, I think his name was. He was a witch pricker. And how they determined if you were a witch is that if you left a mark on you as the devil's mark, if they pricked you with a needle, like a pin, of course it's going to leave you a mark. So what also came from that, which is so important, how many women do you know that really have an issue with aging? Men do not have an aging problem amongst them. They age as they age. Women have this real issue with aging. Now, if we talk about ancestral, passing on ancestral traumas or memory through water, which we know through many of the speakers that we know, water holds memory. There's a reason why women don't want to age, because through the hundreds of years, and I'm talking it was nearly up until 1942, the last witch was tried in England in Portsmouth. No coincidence I was born in Portsmouth. That witch was tried under the Witch Act. She was the last known person in England. She wasn't killed, but she was tried and went to prison for it. Now, when you actually think about the fact that women don't like aging, it's because during the witch trials, the church were the ones that were trying you and going against you and being witness. And if you looked over 30, you were a target because they would have taken all of your land and your money and your home because you were a witch. And that's why we have an ageist problem in the life that we're in now.
And not only that, but it helps pay the bills because All the women now want to look younger. They're going on sunbeds. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're buying potions and creams and everything else. And it helps their bottom line for the industry. Look at all the industries. And what makes me laugh is I was very lucky to speak to a really old midwife and nurse for 30 odd years. And she said to me that in the hospice, for all these sores and bed sores that they were getting, she could knock a cream up that would literally have that gone in a few days. A few days. But they won't allow her because it's not a prescribed medicine.
So in other words, they're prolonging the agony of people.
Correct. They're giving you pain because they don't want you to be free of it. They don't want us to know that our gardens and all these weeds, and this is what makes me laugh, and it's true. And I've done a little bit of research into this, not a lot, but who is the major concern for all the weeds? Roundup, right? But yet the dandelion is one of the most potent how do I put this? Anti-inflammatory.
Anti-cancer. Yeah.
Anti-everything. It literally can do anything for you. The roots are used for this. The flowers are used for that. It's ridiculous how much we have been completely deceived.
They want you to forget who you are, where you came from, your power and your sovereignty, which will make you a divine woman to carry your baby, to carry that light into the next generation, to carry that family, to build that family. And you would have built it with herbs and remedy and knowledge. To obliterate that, to put you on a bed at the birth of the NHS in 1947 would obliterate you, because you are now under the consent and the guise of safety that you can no longer grow a baby safely, and you need the external to do that. Which is why we've got such a broken society. Everybody's got mental health. Everybody's been vaccinated. You've now got birth trauma. This isn't just about, for me, it's not midwifery, it's birth. The sacred of birth is the key to it all. It starts there.
But look, I mean, yes, I mean, nobody likes a child's death. Nobody. But when I was growing up, I had mumps, measles, you name it. Didn't do me any harm. Yes, there may be 1, 2, 3 unfortunate deaths. And, you know, my daughter had the worst chicken pox I've ever seen in my life. She even got a chicken pox spot in her eye, and it's left a permanent mark. She's actually looks like she's got a red star in her eye from the chicken pox. And when I tell you they were everywhere, I mean they were everywhere. It cost me a fortune. We had to literally bath her in, Vic, you know this stuff, the white stuff. Too easy. You know what I mean? I was up all night with her. It is horrible, horrible time. But I believe it is a better time because it gives them more immunity. Our bodies have worked for millions of years, thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, to beat off every virus going. But yet, like idiots, because of this new deadly pox, the coronavirus, ooh, how scary, everybody queued up like sheep to get something that took 10 months to create. They haven't been able to cure the common cold, but everybody went and queued for this violation of humanity vaccine that now we've got people dying en masse and being covered up by Parliament and its corporate bodies on the biggest scale. People are going to funerals twice a week.
Yeah. So basically the solution is we need to get this knowledge out to absolutely everybody, and people need to know what to do. But basically, the only way we can get out of their system is to get into a new financial system, because that's the only way an economy can survive.
It just comes down to finances, mate. It comes down to knowledge. It comes down to now, the financial system that we have needs to be gone. It's as simple as that. I agree with you 100%. But also, what we also need is an understanding that the law isn't broken. These people have deceived the law.
So we
because
need a
we're not
new
under law
judiciary.
anymore. Yeah, complete new judiciary, complete new parliament that can only work on the corporate side. They have absolutely no rights to predict the law. No. That's down to a special council of the people. You cannot take a man's rights away to bear arms. Can't do it. But we've allowed this parliament to do it. So we've now left ourselves and our nation completely vulnerable to anything. And that's what this is all about. This is about us now being naked and reborn into a society where they can use guns against us, kill us, and then their pretense law says, oh, no, it was a good kill. How can you kill an unarmed man and state that that's a good kill? But they do it. How does the state kill hundreds of thousands of people every year and claim it's okay? And we allow it.
It's
because I don't get it, people.
People are scared, mate. People don't know what to do because we've been living in this nanny state for so long on purpose.
Yep. The state will provide for you. Provide what? Tyranny, fear, fiction, disbelief, lies, deceit. That's what the state's created. It's created a war against the people and claimed that it's done by terrorism. The only people that's created the terrorists, and this is proven, and it keeps getting proven, are who?
The state.
They're funding them.
Right, yeah, so it's going to take, my plan is that, like things will accelerate due to economic incentive. That's what I keep trying to drive home. When people wake up to the financial fraud, they'll wake up to everything. And this is where we need to be ready and armed with the knowledge to give everybody.
So that's going to be okay. But if they do what I think they're going to do next, it will not matter because they will collapse every system they've got their hands into. And believe you me, they've got their hands into every system. Okay? And they will, like we've already said, turn off the power. They will turn off the knowledge. They will do whatever they have to do to make this happen for them. But what we've got to do is be steadfast and create our own system of finance for a short period and then go into a better finance. Because once we've got rid of them, and the easy way to do it is very simply now, we remove your sovereignty. You claim you've got it, you've got to prove it. You've got 7 days. Failing to prove it, you are done. No matter what, we're going to remove all your sovereignty. End of. We're not going to give you it anymore.
But they didn't have it anyway.
Correct. But let's make it official. You've now claimed it in error. We never gave you it. You cannot claim something that happened 300 years ago in 1707 and then claim, well, we got it. Well, no, you didn't. You stole it. You literally gave it to yourself. Don't think so. It's not happening. And here's the proof. Here's the legislation that you used to do it. You then changed acts in a corporate self to benefit yourself, which is a breach of the Bill of Rights, the coronation oath. Why do you think there's nobody on oath anymore? Because they know if they were on oath, it's treason. The fact that they've come to our court.
Yeah,
Without that oath, it's treason.
That's a good point. It's also a good point to wrap it up. That's been 1 hour and 11 minutes, folks.
Wow,
so,
that went quick.
It did, mate. Yeah, there's a lot of information in there for people to take on. So we have to break it up a little bit. We'll come back and have to do this again. But any concluding statements, Mr. Blue Boar?
The one concluding statement is this: on the realm of England, I'm going to be doing some documents this week, which you must fill in. It's a must now. You will send a statement to the land registry. You will send it to the chief registrar. You will send it to the company's house registrar. You will now tell them that you are nothing to do with this. You want the birth certificate removing. It is not you, and it is being used in fraud to conduct fraud upon the sea. You are not the administrative fiction that the courts are bringing to court. But you are being charged for taxes that are not due, because you don't pay taxes.
Tax is voluntary anyway. There's no law saying that tax is compulsory.
Well, yes, but there is now, because you're corporate. So until you dispute the fact that you are not corporate, that you stand upon your own ground, and that you are master and of the vessel, or you dispute the vessel's existence. So we now put them under 14 days to reply back. If there is no, it's a tacit, it's silent. If there's no it's a silent agreement, tacit agreement that you are correct and they've illegally converted to you. You will be now taking them en masse to the international courts for slavery, servitude, and committing terrorist acts against you. You will also be taking them to the treason court in America, still under constitutional law, for breaching the English Constitution under the Treason Act 1351 by removing the imperial crown, which all power flows from Parliament and from the judiciary. Removing the Separation of Powers Act is an act of treason and an act of war against the imperial crown's authority. They've now just declared war on you guys, on everybody in England.
Right,
because you're no longer in England, you're in fucking Great Britain or the UK corporation.
Excellent. That's certainly a positive instruction to give. And Vic, you want to say anything to conclude?
Yeah, well, you guys know when I started this journey, I didn't even know what Bitcoin was. I didn't know what the corporations were. I had no clue about what was going on with birth. And it's changed my world, and it's empowered me massively, and my children. They are literally listening to me. They get it. They're like, Mum, you're right. Because I don't normally make a fuss unless it is something that's really important. So just to the average normal family who are struggling with bills, who are struggling to keep their head above water, who are trying to get their kids to football, who are arguing over the money because they don't have any money to buy food and where it's going to come from, it doesn't mean anything. Question it. Question everything. And your life will change. One door and you're in a different world. That's it.
Fantastic. Right, that was awesome. That's 1 hour 50 minutes. So everybody, obviously, we will be back doing another. Obviously, you can write in and contact us with questions and stuff like that, because the knowledge is going to start coming thick and fast very soon. So I hope you enjoyed it. And until then, be aware, take care, stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.
The king still has one more move.